This is MSNBC Live, January 11th, 2021.
There on your screen is the prayer being said after the House gavelled into order. We're waiting for Steny Hoyer, the majority leader, who, as we said earlier, is going to try to pass by unanimous consent the 25th Amendment resolution. So while we wait for that, I want to bring in Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu of California, a member of the House Judiciary Committee, and along with fellow Congressman David Cicilline and Jamie Raskin, he has drafted an article of impeachment against President Trump, the newest version of which we just got in the last hour. We should note it has now more than 200 co-sponsors. Thank you so much for joining us, Congressman. As I said, we just got our first look at this draft of your article of impeachment. What's your constitutional argument here?
Thank you, Chris, for your question. Donald Trump incited a violent insurrection that resulted in multiple deaths, including a law enforcement officer. These people hunted down lawmakers. They tried to assassinate the speaker, assassinate the vice president. Multiple civilians died. We cannot just ignore what happened. So we're introducing this morning an article of impeachment, incitement to insurrection. At the same time, impeachment is one of the gravest powers of Congress. It should always be our last option. That's why we urge the president to resign. And if he doesn't, we hope the vice president will invoke the 25th Amendment. If none of those two things happen, then we will impeach him.
And then when do you think that will happen? What we're expecting, as we said, is we're going to hear from Steny Hoyer. We are not expecting unanimous consent. Later in the week, if there is no 25th Amendment action, will it happen? Do you expect this week that an article of impeachment could come to the floor?
Yes, around midweek. And I note that most current update is we have over 210 co-sponsors of this article. In addition, a number of members who have not co-sponsored have said they will vote for it. So we have more than enough votes to pass the article of impeachment this week.
House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn talked about this yesterday, and like some Democrats, there is a concern that focusing too much on Donald Trump will interfere with Joe Biden, his new presidency, his new administration, and the many things that he has on his plate. He's made it clear he's going to tackle the coronavirus, he's going to tackle the economic impact of that, and many other things. Why do this if President Trump will be out of office in 9 days? What is your message to folks who say, you know what, let's just wait it out?
Because the worst thing that can happen in the Biden presidency is to act normal. We cannot pretend January 6th didn't happen. This was an attempted violent overthrow of Congress. The best way for the Biden presidency to start is to acknowledge what happened and to hold everyone accountable, including Donald Trump. We cannot simply let this go because we can never heal as a nation if we don't have justice first.
You have gone further than many of your colleagues by calling on President Trump to be prosecuted, as well as calling on his lawyer, who seems to be one of the few people the president is even talking to right now, to be disbarred. President-elect Biden has emphasized bringing the country together. So when you look at moves like that, even beyond impeachment, could they further divide or even inflame President Trump supporters?
Again, the reason we're here is because we have coddled Donald Trump. We were afraid to take him out in many instances. We let him run with a big lie about this faulty election fraud. That's what resulted in January 6th, and we have to stop that. We have to stand up to this man who incited a violent riot at our nation's capital. It was a massive humiliation to our nation. It had a lot of people die. And we have to hold everybody accountable, including his attorney, such as Rudy Giuliani. That's why last week, Congressman Mondale Jones and I sent a letter asking for Rudy Giuliani to be investigated and disbarred. And we're very pleased that the New York State Bar Association has announced they're investigating him this morning. So we need to hold everyone accountable before we can move forward as a nation.
They just read, while you and I were talking, Congressman, the resignation letter of the Sergeant-at-Arms there. As we have reported, both the House and the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms have resigned in the wake of this, as well as the head of the Capitol Police. Well, so let's go listen now, because Steny Hoyer has taken to the podium to try to pass by unanimous consent, the 25th Amendment resolution. Let's listen.
Title of the resolution.
House Resolution 21, resolution calling on Vice President Michael R. Pence to convene and mobilize the principal officers of the executive departments of the cabinet to activate Section 4 of the 25th Amendment to declare President Donald J. Trump incapable of executing the duties of his office and to immediately exercise powers as acting president.
For what purpose does the gentleman from West Virginia rise?
I object.
Objection is heard. Pursuant to Section 5A1B of the House Resolution 8, the House stands adjourned to 9 a.m. tomorrow.
And so that is what we expected. There was not going to be a vote today on this 25th Amendment resolution. Ted Lieu, Congressman, we were talking when you came on about the resignation letter that had also been read. And I'm hearing from some members of Congress that there is concern about, an understandable concern about safety. Is it worthwhile to bring members of Congress back to Washington, D.C.? Do you feel safe back in Washington, D.C.? Do you believe members of Congress should all be coming back into that chamber?
I am pleased that we received a memo saying that our travel security will be increased. And we do have a lot of law enforcement now very aware of what Trump supporters can do, that many of them who showed up on January 6th went there with intent to cause violence. And I want to make sure that we do the proper investigations. And let's start at the very top, the biggest federal agency at the time, the Department of Homeland Security. Last year, they deployed their forces over the objections of local authorities to protect Confederate statues and buildings. Where the heck were they on January 6th? I want to know that. And I also want to know what happened with Capitol Police, why they were overrun. So there's lots of investigations that need to take place.
Congressman Ted Lieu, one of the co-sponsors of the single article of impeachment against Donald J. Trump, he would be the only president who ever was impeached twice. Thank you so much, Congressman, for taking the time to be with us on this morning, this very consequential morning. I want to bring in Garrett Haake one more time because, Garrett, before we even get to that article of impeachment formally, what happens next now that they've gavelled out of session for today on the House floor?